Okay, he's not advocating for the termination of the Constitution. In that, like, what are you talking? Wait,
So
I'm
why did
calling
you
for the
deny that he
complete
said it?
and
Why didn't you
total.
just say it was
Stop,
based?
stop. I never denied he didn't say it. You're not listening. It's like racism when they're literally jailing anybody that commits a crime, regardless of race. Okay, they're not specifying a particular race. It's regardless of race.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, how are you? What is your age?
I'm 20.
Okay, what are the background do you want to talk about?
The voted for Trump part.
Okay, go ahead.
So I think that Donald Trump poses an actual authoritarian threat to the country, and he's already floated terminating the Constitution to rerun elections that he's lost. So I don't understand how Americans feel comfortable voting for him.
Okay, where has he touted like getting rid of the Constitution?
On Truth Social on December 4th, 2022, he tweeted out, or he posted, a massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution.
That okay, he's not advocating for the termination of the Constitution. In that, like, what are you talking? Wait, you think that by what he said means that he's advocating for the termination of the Constitution?
When he says that the election was fraudulent and that fraud allows for the termination of the Constitution, doesn't it sound like he wants to terminate the Constitution because of the
No,
fraud?
he's saying because there's a mass fraud of election. And again, I don't want to talk about that, but because there's what that tweet is specifically say. I don't know how you people don't pass English. Did y'all pass English classes when y'all were in high school? This is just so absurd. So for the first conjunction of the sentence was because there was a high amount of fraud, right? And he says, and then he makes another conjunction based on the first conjunction, and he says, because of that, this would allow for the termination of the Constitution, implying that when we allow fraud, it could lead. He's arguing a trickle down fallacy. He's basically performing a trickle down fallacy in his argument,
He's arguing that it
right?
should
He's
lead, not that it
saying,
could.
no, he's not. What he's saying is that because there was high amounts of fraud, this would allow for the termination of, right, the Constitution. He's not saying we should eliminate the Constitution. He's saying because there was high amounts of fraud, this would go towards eliminating the Constitution, which is something that we don't want. So I don't understand how you can sit here like do y'all not know how the conjunction of sentences apply to each other?
So you are telling me right now that him saying that the election was fraudulent and that should allow for the termination of the
That's
Constitution
not what he
to,
said. That's not
quote,
what you said at
throw the
first. That's not
presidential
what he
election
said.
results
That's
out
not
and
what he
declare a
said. You're just
rightful winner,
misconstruing.
and then
You're
he goes
doing
on to say,
exactly what the media does. That's not what he said. He said because there was a lot of fraud in terms of the election, that this would allow for the elimination of the Constitution. He's not saying because there was fraud we should eliminate the Constitution. That's not what he said.
you want me to read the whole post out?
Yes, read the whole post out again. You just did it, and
Okay.
that's not what he said.
Okay, I can. So with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception and working closely with big tech companies, the DNC and the Democrat Party, do you throw out the presidential election results out, or do you declare the rightful winner? Do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. That doesn't sound like a justification to throw out the election results in
Wait,
conjunction
No,
with
he's
the
saying it could
Constitution.
cause it. He's saying it could
wait.
cause something.
Yeah,
I think you
you
are being
you
obtuse.
just literally read that and still don't understand it.
It's very clear. He thinks that the election is fraudulent, and so
These
we
people are so
It
remedial.
would
he's just asking
okay.
questions
So
of
wait.
could we
So
rerun the election? Could we terminate the
so
Constitution?
Ronald, hold on. Listen.
Mhm.
If you just read that, what does the words "would allow" mean?
What do you mean? It would allow.
It would allow, right? It doesn't mean he will. It doesn't mean he would. It doesn't mean it means would allow, right? Meaning if you wanted to pursue this, it would allow for that to happen. right? But then I want you to continue reading where you keep saying it was he wants to throw out the Constitution. Do you know what articles are? How many articles are in the Constitution?
Why are you
How
asking me
many
this?
articles are in the Constitution? This is very simple
Why are you asking me this? This is semantics.
because it's very simple. If there's
It's not
how
semantics.
many articles are there in the Constitution?
Just make your
If there
point.
would be
Don't
okay, so
quiz
there would
me.
be
Okay, make your
seven.
point.
So there's 7 articles. How many of those articles specifically deal with elections?
I don't know why you're trying to quiz me. Just make your point.
Okay, so in other words, he's not trying to throw out the entire Constitution, dumbass. He's basically saying if there
Okay,
is
so
this amount of election, if there is this amount of fraud, this would allow for certain articles in the Constitution to be thrown out,
this
right?
is the most
Because
charitable. What does all mean? Because he says all rules, regulations, and
all
articles.
rules and all rules and regulations that is pertaining
And
to
articles.
states
And articles.
rules and regulations, right? So
All rules, regulations, and articles.
okay, and articles which pertain to
He didn't say that.
well, we're speaking of elections, right? It should not need to be spelled out for you.
Okay, so we do have the ability to add context. So why
Okay,
would we?
so
Why would he
let me
Like,
add
throw
the
allow?
context. Wait,
So real quick,
hang
let
on,
me just
guys,
ask a question. Why
hang on,
would
guys. Give me 1 second. Let me add the context. Okay, he writes so, comma, right? Comma means like a period, right? It's like having a binder between what so is versus what he's going to say. So it says so, comma, with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception in working closely with big tech companies, comma, right? The DNC, comma, and the Democratic Party, comma, do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner, comma? Or do you have a new election? Question mark. A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of our rules, comma. That's not saying that he wants to eliminate the Constitution. That is saying that by the actions of the DNC and the Democratic Party, by not allowing Kamala to actually be chosen, right, in conjunction with big tech companies, right, that would allow for the elimination, right, of all rules, regulations, and articles.
so no?
Even, and then
What
he says,
he's
comma, even those found in the constitutions, period.
now
what he's
this
Our
would
great
saying?
be
founders did not
now
want and will not
What
condone
he's
now
a
saying?
Ronald.
false and
Wait,
fraudulent election.
so
Okay,
this is very
I haven't
important.
been able to respond. Can I respond real quick, please?
No,
Well,
what
yeah,
I
but
want you
you're
to
going to have
answer
to
me. What about
address.
that?
You're going to
What?
have to address the very first thing Avani said when it talks about a re-election, because that is the question, right? So, does the Constitution or the rules and the regulations allow for a re-election? No, they do
The answer
not.
is no.
So,
Yes,
exactly, no, they do not. So, if you want to hold another election, what would you need to do?
terminate the Constitution.
You would need to get rid of the rules and regulations at the state levels, right? And then the articles that pertain to elections.
Right.
Okay, so that it would not be the entire Constitution.
So you're
It'd
fine with
be
him terminating parts of it?
if okay, so if there is a if you truly know or believe that there has been a magnitude of a fake or a
Here's the
fraudulent
problem: is that it
election.
always turns out to be like,
No,
oh,
no,
he didn't
wait.
say that,
I'm
but then
going.
he
No,
did say it, and you just
this is the
justify
thing.
it. This is
So,
We
insane.
Ronald,
This is
no, no, no.
we
insane.
have
Hold on,
always
hold
rewritten
on.
the Constitution. Wait, hang on, Phoenix. We have always rewritten the Constitution, and I think there needs to be more rules. What he's advocating
This
here
is how it
is
always
saying that there
goes.
needs to be
They always
more
say he didn't
rules
say that,
to the
and then they go, oh, he
regulations
did say
about
that, but it was based.
re-elections or about any contesting to the results. All he's advocating for is the expansion of rules or the elimination of rules and then expanding on those to combat the fraudulent, whatever you want to call it, of elections. He's
So
not
why did
calling
you
for the
deny that he
complete
said it?
and
Why didn't you
total.
just say it was
Stop.
based?
Stop. I never denied he didn't say it. You're not listening. It's like when I say something, you start talking about fucking unicorns. I'm
guys are
not denying
justifying
that he said
terminating
it. He
articles of the
obviously said
Constitution.
it. The tweet
This
is
is
out there.
anti-American, guys. This is insane.
No, what's
It's
anti-American?
not.
Stop. Hang on, Bingham. What's anti-American is literally putting someone on the ballot that was not chosen. That is anti-American.
It's not
Okay,
anti-American
but
that Trump
regardless of
does.
the fact, Trump is not advocating for the elimination of the Constitution. What he's advocating for is the expansion of rules and regulations, and I don't see nothing wrong with that.
Well, not
So
only that, but I would say it's
how do you get that from
anti-American.
termination of all rules, regulations, and articles? How do you
Ronald,
get expanding the rules?
He
Ronald,
didn't say that though. He asked the question: should we eliminate the
You
rules
guys
and
are actually
regulations and
unhinged.
articles,
This is insane.
even those in the Constitution? He's asking a question. He's making the dissertation that either we follow these rules and regulations, right, or we take them out.
right? And I
Kamala
would say
Harris
it's
said,
more.
should we
And
actually
I
follow
would
the
say,
Constitution?
Ronald.
Would you give her
Oh my
the
God, this
same
is so
amount of
annoying. Okay,
charity?
I would say
Would you give Kamala Harris the same amount of charity if she said,
yes. I
should we
absolutely
follow the
would.
Constitution?
I
she
absolutely
has
would.
actually said stuff like that.
You
What do
guys
you
are
mean?
unhinged.
Ronald, here is
You guys
why.
are actually insane.
Ronald,
You're
stop.
insane. Wait,
Stop.
hang on, hang on. Give me Phoenix. Give me 1 second. Ronald,
Yeah.
you
Go ahead.
have to stop arguing from emotion because it's not
Well,
going to
you
get
guys are
anywhere.
talking about
That's
terminating
number
the
one.
Constitution.
Number two,
No,
you're
we're not.
completely. Hang on. You're completely misrepresenting what he said in his tweet. It is
God.
not that complicated to go read his tweet and see what he says.
The termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the
Oh my God,
Constitution. That's what
you're
it
so
says.
remedial. I don't know what to tell you.
He
You're just
really is.
remedial.
So, Ronald,
You
you have
guys
to
have a
stop.
wall in your brain. For some reason, you
No,
No,
need to
I'm
say
reading out the
everything
tweet. He doesn't
Ronald.
just
that is
say get
beneficial
rid
to
of
your
rules
God
and
king.
regulations.
It doesn't even matter if the president
Ronald.
you're
Okay,
voting for
I'm done
wants
with
to
this
terminate the
conversation.
Constitution.
Anything else you want to say? Because
Ronald.
you're just you're getting
I just have.
emotional, and you're only focusing on one part. You're not focusing on it the
I'm only
entirety of the
focusing on him
conjunction
wanting
of
to
the
Hey,
vote yes.
I'm
sentence.
just curious. I'm just curious because he keeps asking us if it were Kamala, would we have this same energy? And my answer to that is absolutely. And I'll tell you why. I think it's more un-American to allow a fraudulent election to stand than to have a new election. So if I knew, and I'm a Trump supporter, but if I knew or if I had very strong suspicions that Donald Trump had cheated and done everything he could to get elected without actually it being a fair election, and someone on the Democrat side was calling for another election because they knew or at least strongly had evidence that shit had gone on, I would absolutely be in favor of it.
Can
And
I
it's
ask a
because
very simple question?
it's because hold on. Because of the simple fact that I do believe that our elections should be fair, right?
Yeah.
I don't care who wins as long as it's fair.
Who do you
If your
trust
guy,
to investigate election fraud?
if your guy beats my guy and it's completely on the up and up, your guy was just a better guy,
Who
right?
do you trust to
That's just
investigate
it.
election fraud?
That's just it.
Who do you trust to investigate election fraud?
An outside source, and I want a complete
They already
forensic
did,
audit.
and they said that
No, they
Trump
didn't.
lost.
No,
They
they
already
didn't.
did, and they said
No,
Trump
they
lost.
didn't.
Even
No,
people
they
that Trump
didn't.
What do you
hired
mean
said
by
they
no, they
lost.
didn't? You know, Trump, when he filed his 63 court cases
Yeah,
and half
so
of them didn't have any
Wait.
standing.
The
Well,
You
no,
DOJ, the
that's
DHS, all of the
that
dumb.
judges, and
wasn't
all of the
okay.
independent people
Hang
Hang
that
on,
invested.
Give me
Who-
1 second. First
who-
of all, you can't be moving points, right? It's not up to us to decide who should investigate these. All we're saying is that there should be a different
No, what you're
process.
saying is that we should terminate the
Stop
Constitution because there's
talking
no law.
over me.
That's what
Stop. No, I'm about to kick you, honestly. Because, like, you're just getting emotional. You're not allowing the conversation to progress.
Because you're allowing a dictator to
Okay,
take
then you
control.
can leave.
That's
You
why.
can leave then. I'm the dictator now. You can leave
Hey,
my
Rimland,
platform.
it's good to see you.
That's why this is stupid. You can't just use hyperbole and think it makes you a good argument.
Who is Bill Barr, and what was his responsibilities in terms of the election?
Let me ask you a different question.
That doesn't
Nope,
matter.
that's not
Why
an
does
answer.
that matter?
This is unhinged. Every single time they'll say Trump didn't say he wanted to terminate the Constitution, but then when you get the clear verbiage that it's on the basis of voter fraud, they're like, oh, well, the election was fraudulent, so it's fine for him to overturn it, even though he's the only one that thinks it was fraudulent. So what we walk back to is that conservatives are just fine with Donald Trump terminating the Constitution to rerun the election that he lost on the hunch that he lost it. This is actually insane. I don't know how to break through this fucking this mind poison. Like, it's actually, this is the rise of dictatorships. This is how it works. No one's ever going to say, hey, you know, I know that elections are cool, but I'm going to be a dictator now. They're never going to say that. They're going to say, well, look, they're cheating. We have to terminate the Constitution because the other side can't play fair. We have to crack down. That's how it's always going to happen. I don't know why people are so obtuse when the verbiage literally says termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. I don't know why we have to be obtuse and argue for fucking 20 minutes about if he actually said that for them to just walk back and say, okay, he did say it, but that was cool.